Robin first debuted in the pages of Detective Comics 38, making an immediate impact on Batman and the comic book industry at large. The Boy Wonder was designed to make Detective Comics more popular with children, a way for kids to see themselves reflected in their favorite action-packed adventures. And DC's plan worked wonders. The appearance of Robin led to Batman comics doubling in sales for a period of time. Kids were ecstatic to see someone of their age play a significant role in a superhero comic. But beyond increasing comic sales, the introduction of Robin also helped make Batman comics more interesting and fun. Bruce finally had someone to bounce off of, an impressionable and lively teenager who shared the same traumatic experience he went through, but had a completely different outlook afterwards. As stated in Batman: The Complete History, although his parents had been murdered like Batman's, young Dick Grayson relished the chance to put on a costume and catch the killers. He cheerfully ended his first adventure by announcing, "I can hardly wait till we go on our next case. I bet it'll be a corker." The same book contains a quote from Bill Finger, co-creator of Batman, on how the inclusion of Robin drastically improved the stories in Detective Comics. "The pulps were grim, lacking in humor," Finger said, but the appearance of Robin changed that tone. The puns were there, the dialogue easy, fluid, and flowing. It brightened up and added characterization to the main figure of Batman. Robin works so well because he is everything Batman isn't. Bruce is sullen and stern, while Dick is cheerful and lively. Of course, not all interpretations of Batman and Robin followed this description. The Batman of the 60s was silly and lighthearted, while Robin in the Titans show seems to be a little edgier than usual.
Fuck Batman.
But most of the time, Robin is the light to Batman's darkness. It's his contrast to Batman in terms of attitude and personality that makes their dynamic work so well. And what better way to highlight Robin's light than by letting him wear an extremely colorful costume. Instead of following the gray and black color scheme of Batman's suit, Robin sported a red, yellow, and green outfit with unique design elements that made him stand out from the Caped Crusader even in his first appearance. I love Robin's outfit, and I think it's part of why he's such an iconic character. If you look at other Golden Age sidekicks that were created after Robin, you'd see how derivative a lot of their designs are, solely based on the main hero. Even iconic sidekicks like Donna Troy and Aqualad initially wore costumes that felt a little too close to the adult heroes they fought alongside. Meanwhile, Robin is visually distinct from Batman, even setting aside their different color schemes. Robin's classic costume showed a bit of his legs and arms, while Batman's costume completely covered him from head to toe. Robin wears a domino mask, while Batman typically wears a towel that connects his mask to his cape. Even the placement of the Robin logo is different, being on his left chest instead of being front and center like Batman's. By having such a different costume, Robin doesn't just look like Batman's sidekick, but a distinct character with his own sense of fashion and personality. No matter how many characters have taken over the role of Robin, the signature color scheme introduced for the character in 1940 hasn't changed all that much, and I think it speaks to how brilliant the initial design was in framing Robin as more than a younger version of Batman. But as much as I love the Robin costume, I understand why some people think it's a little silly. Wearing those colors on the battlefield is pretty difficult to justify. I mean, if you're a dangerous criminal and both heroes lunge at you from the darkness, you would probably end up aiming at Robin first because of how bright his costume is. Robin donning such vibrant clothing on missions makes him an easy target, and Bruce allowing him to wear such a colorful costume could be seen as an irresponsible parenting decision. Of course, many aspects of fiction are silly and shouldn't have to be explained. Enjoying art often requires us to suspend our disbelief and understand that the stories we engage with don't completely adhere to logic and realism. Superman should be able to fly without question, and we should accept when a rat from an animated movie turns out to be the greatest chef on planet Earth. Their absurdity is what makes those two characters so intriguing and special, and the ability to accept a fictional world's unrealistic reality is paramount to enjoying media. Robin's colorful costume does not need an explanation. So, why in the world am I still trying to answer that question? Well, it's because the way DC Comics addresses Robin's colorful costume is so weird and interesting. According to my knowledge, there isn't just one reason why Robin wears bright colors. There are three. So, how have the comics explained this phenomenon? Why does Batman allow Robin to wear such garish colors that make him stand out in the dark? In most iterations of the character, Robin wears red, green, and yellow because those colors are tied to his previous life as an acrobat. Dick Grayson didn't have a typical childhood, being part of the Flying Graysons, a family of aerialists that stunned the world with their ability to swing and perform stunts mid-air with the greatest of ease. After his parents' death at the hands of Tony Zuko, Bruce takes Dick in as his ward, and he becomes Robin. In most Batman stories that tackle the origin of the Boy Wonder, the colors of Robin's suit are a tribute to his family. In the last issue of Batman Dark Victory by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale, a bunch of Batman villains break into the Batcave, and Robin makes his grand debut, dodging bullets in style and kicking Joker in the face to help save the day. Batman questions the costume's design, and later on asks Dick to rethink the yellow cape, to which he responds, "Nope. Those were the colors my parents wore in the circus." In Robin issue 6 by Tim Seeley and Valdemar Rivas, we end up reliving the same moment in a flashback. Batman asks Robin about the yellow cape, and Robin tells him that the colors are based on his parents' outfits in the circus. Dick also says that wearing a bright costume will help Bruce locate him when he's far away. In Robin and Batman issue 1 by Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nguyen, Dick joins Batman in his crusade against crime wearing a dark, stealthy outfit. But due to his disobedience and cockiness, he gets cut off from going on missions with Batman, and his costume gets destroyed by Alfred. In a fit of rage, he crafts his own superhero identity and costume, based on a nickname his mom gave him and what his family wore at the circus. In this version of Robin's origin, the colorful costume isn't just a tribute to his family, it's also a way to spite Bruce for letting him go, by wearing a suit Batman would probably not advise him to ever wear in combat. I am probably 100% right about this. My name should be darker, my costume stealthier. But that's exactly why I'm going to use this instead. Bright red and yellow, the antithesis of what he would want. See, this may be dumb, but it's really gonna piss him off. So yeah, in this comic, the main reason Robin chooses to wear his iconic red, green, and yellow costume is to get revenge on Bruce. Still, this version of Robin genuinely loves his outfit. When Batman calls it ridiculous later on, Dick defends it and mentions the costume's ties to his family. Anyway, I love the idea of Robin's colorful costume being a love letter to his parents that he insists on keeping. A way for his family's acrobatic legacy to live on years after their passing. But it's not the only explanation the comics are given to justify Robin's garish garb. Grayson Futures End by Tim Seeley, Tom King, and Stephen Mooney is a very unique comic. The book starts with Dick Grayson in the present being 2011 when Dick was a secret agent, and as we turn from one page to the next, we're brought further and further back in time. I can't imagine how difficult it must have been to write this. You'd have to know a lot about Robin's past and be able to select specific moments in his history that are significant and would tell an interesting story. Anyway, one page in this comic sees Robin wear his iconic suit for the very first time, and Dick doesn't exactly like the costume he's given. It's a little, I don't know, bright? I mean, you get to wear all the black stuff. You get to use the night and shadows and things. Won't everyone, see me out there? Batman replies with a pretty shocking answer. He tells Dick, "You wear black, you rely on the dark. It becomes your crutch. Someone takes it from you and you fall. Wear your outfit so they will see you. Then beat them when they see you. When you're ready, wear mine. Earn the night." Apparently, Robin's signature costume, according to this comic, isn't based on the acrobatic suits his family wore, but instead a way for Dick to be trained at the highest level. Because Robin wears an extremely bright outfit that makes him an easy target for crooks and supervillains, it forces him to always be on guard and act quickly in combat. While I don't think any sane person would let a child wear such vibrant clothing to fight in the dark, Batman is not a sane individual. He's been determined to rid Gotham City of crime ever since his parents were taken away from him as a young boy, and to achieve those ends, trained with master martial artists all around the world. He's a character driven to be this perfect human, to be both an intelligent investigator and a fearsome fighter. Putting Robin in jeopardy as a form of training makes some sense if you factor in Bruce's perfectionism. In Batman/Catwoman issue 7 by Tom King and Liam Sharp, we see an elderly Selina Kyle talk to an adult Dick Grayson about the origin of the Robin costume, and apparently, Bruce gave her a completely different explanation as to why it's so colorful. While Bruce told Dick that it was for him to be trained at the highest level, he told Selina that it was a safety measure against the Joker. He told me it was to make the Joker laugh. He thought if the Joker saw you as nothing, as a silly yellow joke, he might not kill you. Well, it didn't exactly work, considering that the next Robin, who wore pretty much the same costume, died at the hands of the Joker. That might have been Tom King's intention, though, to make one of Batman's greatest tragedies even more humiliating and sad. It's kind of crazy, right? We have 3 answers for a question that only a handful of fans would ever ask, and I think it speaks to just how rich, deep, and complicated comic book lore is. Pop culture's most iconic superheroes have been reimagined in so many different ways over the years that even the smallest of details, like the origin of Robin's costume, have been changed multiple times and don't have a definitive interpretation. When I think about the complexity and inconsistency of comic book superheroes, I'm brought to an iconic line in Alan Moore and Brian Boland's The Killing Joke. In the comic, Joker talks about his origin in this way. I'm not exactly sure what it was. Sometimes I remember it one way, sometimes another. If I'm going to have a past, I prefer it to be multiple choice. In the context of comic book superheroes, this line reminds me of how convoluted comic book history is, full of inconsistencies, contradictions, and different takes. But it's those different interpretations that make the world of comic books unrestrained, free, and fun. Writers and artists can change, add, and remove aspects of characters to fit their intended narrative, and readers also have the freedom to choose which part of the superhero canon they love and regard as true, because hey, everything could change anyway when the next creative team takes over. So why does Robin wear a bright costume? The comics offer multiple explanations, which means that the answer ultimately rests on you. What do you choose to believe? Are all the reasons DC gave valid in your eyes? Or is there one in particular that you think is the best? Tell me your truth in the comments below. My name is Joshua C, and I will see you in the next one.